Just before we get into today's video, we want to tell you that we're still posting new videos to our other channel, Paranormally Listed. We recently posted a video that fans of true crime might enjoy. It's called 3 Murder Houses That Are Haunted. You can find a link to Paranormally Listed in the description box below this video, and we'll have another link at the end of this video. In today's video, we'll be discussing 3 people who either worked at a funeral home or a crematory, and they probably shouldn't have. Sometimes people can feel trapped in doing jobs they don't like. I know exactly how that feels. When I was fresh out of college, I landed a job that I hated. All my friends and family told me I should be happy because it was a good job, but I was absolutely miserable and I dreaded going to work every day. It got to be so bad that I wouldn't sleep because it made the next morning of work come quicker. I honestly felt like the character Dunbar in Catch-22 because I wanted to do boring things when I wasn't working because it made time go slower, as opposed to time flying by when you're having fun. I realized that was no way to live, so I talked about my situation to a therapist. From there, we made adjustments to my life, and I found myself on a better path. Years later, I'm much happier, but I still have issues, so I talked with a licensed therapist on BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, and I want to say a big thank you to them for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp wants to help you if you're feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, because you don't have to feel that way. BetterHelp has licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Even if you need help with a specific problem, they can help because they have a network of over 20,000 therapists. You can even find a specialized therapist that isn't available where you live. To get started, fill out a questionnaire to assess your specific needs, and then within 48 hours, they'll match you to a therapist. If you happen to be connected with a therapist you feel isn't quite right for you, you can change the therapist at no extra cost. You can schedule video and phone sessions with your therapist and exchange unlimited messages. Plus, everything you share is completely confidential. Join the 3 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/criminallisted. You can also find a link in the description box below this video. Number 3. Anton Godfrey. In the summer of 2015, 43-year-old Anton Godfrey lived with his wife in the village of Riverdale, Illinois. Riverdale borders Chicago. Anton owned and operated Living Waters Funeral Services. He was known as a funeral director who did things on the cheap and only took cash. But several people had problems with him. One woman sued him in 2012 because he failed to provide a tombstone after her mother's funeral in December 2011. Several other people complained that they had paid Anton for a grave marker but didn't receive them. Other allegations were much more serious. In March 2013, 50-year-old Bridget Godfrey died of an asthma attack. Bridget was Anton's aunt. Her church paid Anton for the funeral services and her cremation, but he never handed over the ashes. Once again, Bridget's family was not the only one who didn't receive the remains of their loved ones. During his career, Anton rented rooms in different funeral homes throughout the Chicago area. His last lease was terminated because he didn't have a business license. On August 28, 2015, 43-year-old Anton Godfrey was working on some funeral arrangements. Suddenly, he had a massive heart attack. He died the next day. About 2 weeks later, Godfrey's widow was cleaning out the garage when she made a horrifying discovery. It was a human body. She immediately called the police. The police searched the garage. It turned out that when Anton's lease was terminated at the last funeral home, he started doing embalming in his garage. Besides embalming tools, they made a lot of gruesome discoveries in the garage. They found 4 bodies, a bag of human organs, and human ashes. In the yard, there were 5 headstones. The bodies were all supposed to be buried or cremated. After the gruesome discovery, more shocking things were found out about Anton Godfrey. He had several run-ins with the law regarding his business. In 2011, he was disciplined for improperly filing death certificates. Then, over the next several years, he was given several cease and desist orders to stop performing funerals. In August 2013, he was given a cease and desist order and fined $10,000 for unlicensed practice of funeral directing and embalming. During his career as a funeral director, Anton handled 30 funerals, but he had never been licensed to be a funeral director. After the state of Illinois police issued the last cease and desist order, they did not collect the fine or make sure Anton had stopped performing funerals. The families of the bodies found in the garage were deeply upset by the news. They said they had to relive the deaths of their loved ones. Number 2. Mark Villela. In the fall of 1995, 24-year-old Exley Pittman was working as an apprentice funeral director at a funeral home in Silver Springs, Maryland. 35-year-old Mark Villela was a full-time funeral director at the funeral home. They soon started a romantic relationship, but there were problems early on in the relationship. Mark was controlling and extremely jealous. On one occasion, Exley's sister saw him push her against the wall because he didn't want her to leave the house. A few months into the relationship, Mark's ex-wife called Exley's parents and warned them that he was abusive. She said that she was pregnant and Mark had knocked the chair out from underneath her. As a result, she lost the baby. Nevertheless, Mark and Exley's relationship continued. In July 1997, the couple was married in a funeral home in West Virginia. On their honeymoon, Exley became pregnant. She gave birth to a son named Anthony. In the summer of 1998, the family settled into Barry, Florida. Mark got a job at the Deltona Memorial Funeral Home and Cemetery in Orange City, and Exley got a job at Gencore Industries in Orlando. She was initially hired as a temp, but she was soon promoted full-time to selling asphalt production equipment. In July 1999, Exley started to have an affair with the head engineer at Gencore, Mark Camp. On August 6, 1999, 28-year-old Exley Villela did not show up for work. She did not call in to say she wasn't coming in. She didn't show up for work the next 2 days, and no one had heard from her. Her co-workers also thought it was odd that Mark hadn't called the office. He usually called 4 or 5 times a day to check on Exley. On August 9th, one of Exley's co-workers called Mark. He told her that on the night of August 5th, he had taken some NyQuil and fallen asleep. When he woke up, Exley was gone. The co-worker thought that this was an odd story. Mark was very controlling and always needed to know where Exley was. She thought it was strange that he seemed indifferent that she had left him without an explanation. So the co-worker called the sheriff's department. It wasn't the only call they received about Exley's disappearance. Her sister had called as well. She said on the night of August 5th she spoke with Exley. Exley said she and Mark had fought. After that phone call, she didn't hear from her sister. A sheriff's deputy went to Mark and Exley's home and talked to Mark. They had disagreed about having another child and that she had come home drunk. They had a calm discussion and agreed to get marriage counseling. He said he took some Tylenol PM and NyQuil and went to bed. He said that Exley stayed up and made meatloaf. Mark claimed he got up at midnight and saw that Exley was gone and the meatloaf was in the refrigerator. Mark was asked why he hadn't reported his wife missing, and he explained that he had a brother who was a sheriff's deputy, and his brother had told him to wait a few days to file a missing persons report. The sheriff's deputy looked around the house and noticed some strange things. For example, Exley's car was in the driveway and her keys were in the house. None of her jewelry was taken. The deputy also knew that she was a devoted mother who would not abandon her toddler. The deputy then talked to Exley's co-workers. Mark Camp told him that he and Exley had been having an affair. They were supposed to be in Daytona Beach the weekend after she went missing. The sheriff's deputy looked at the funerals held at Mark Villela's workplace after Exley went missing. One of them caught his attention. On July 31st, 1999, 89-year-old Marjorie Hutchinson died of natural causes. Her closed casket funeral was held at the funeral home where Mark worked. She was buried on August 9th, 1999, the day after Exley was reported missing. About 3 weeks after Exley went missing, the police confronted Mark and told him they believed Exley had been murdered and he was their prime suspect. They also told him that they believed he buried her body in the same coffin as Marjorie Hutchinson's body. They said they were going to exhume the coffin. Mark Villela confessed they had murdered Exley. He said he found an intimate letter that she had written to Mark Camp. He confronted her and she told him that she no longer loved him. She planned on leaving him and taking their son with him. After the fight, she went to bed. Mark said that at around 4 a.m., he went into the bedroom with a steak knife. He stabbed his 28-year-old wife once in the chest, and then she sat up and said, "I didn't do anything." That was something she often said when they fought. Then he stabbed her 3 more times in the chest. After he murdered his wife of 2 years, he went into the living room and sat on the couch. In the morning, he took their son to the babysitter and then he went to work. He took the van, returned home, and wrapped Exley's body in plastic. He loaded the body into the van and drove her back to the funeral home. He stored her body in a freezer locker until he got Marjorie Hutchinson's body. On August 25th, the coffin containing the bodies of both women was exhumed. They were stacked on top of each other. Exley's body was on the bottom, and she was dressed in the clothes she was murdered in. Mark Villela's trial started on September 11th, 2001. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, and they found him guilty. He was sentenced to life without the chance of parole. His lawyer appealed, and in December 2002, his conviction was overturned because of several errors that happened during his trial. He was ordered to stand trial again. In April 2003, 42-year-old Mark Villela agreed to a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison without the chance of parole for 32 years. 62-year-old Mark Villela is serving a sentence at the Tomoka Correctional Institution in Daytona Beach. The earliest he'll be able to apply for parole is August 2033, when he'll be 73 years old. Number 1. Ray Brent Marsh. On Valentine's Day 2002, the Sheriff's Department in Walker County, Georgia, received an unusual phone call. A person had been walking their dog in a wooded area near the Tri-State Crematory. The crematory was opened in the mid-1970s by Tommy Marsh in the backyard of his family's home. It worked with funeral homes in Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. The person who called the Sheriff's Department reported that they had found a human arm in the woods. The police recovered the arm and went to the crematory the next day. What they found was something straight out of a horror movie. They found 49 bodies of people who should have been cremated. The police continued to search the family's property. They found a mind-boggling 339 bodies scattered around the property and in the nearby woods. In every building on the property, besides the family's home, there were bodies. Also, there were some holes that were dug in the ground, and there were bodies in the holes. Unfortunately, none of the bodies have been stored properly. Some of them were in caskets and cases, and they were stacked on top of each other. Other bodies weren't in any type of casing, and they were strewn about the property. Some of the bodies were still in hospital gowns and had wristbands on. The police learned that some of the bodies had been there for 5 years. Because some of the bodies were years old, they were all different states of decomposition. It turned out that when the police went to the crematory in February 2002, it wasn't the first time that the authorities heard that something odd was going on there. 20 months earlier, in October 2000, a gas man called the sheriff's department because he had seen dead bodies on the property. Then, 13 months after that, an anonymous tip came into the Environmental Protection Agency that there were bodies in the woods surrounding the Marshes' property. Supposedly, they did an investigation but didn't find anything. So, what exactly happened? In 1996, Tommy Marsh, the crematory's owner and operator, fell ill. At the time, his son, Ray Brent Marsh, was attending the University of Tennessee on a football scholarship. He was on the starting line of the football team, and he planned on majoring in business management. But, unfortunately, he had to leave college to run the family business. Ray supposedly got mercury poisoning from cremating the bodies, and his lawyer said this made it seem like he was living in a fog. The police believe that Ray never wanted to work in the family business. Then he fell behind, and things snowballed until it was out of control. Instead of giving families the ashes of their loved ones, he gave them dust and random ashes left over from other cremations. Of the 339 bodies that were found, only 226 were identified. Ray was charged with 787 felony charges, including 178 counts of abusing a corpse and 439 counts of theft. He was looking at a possible sentence of 8,000 years in prison, but a plea deal was struck. In November 2004, Ray pleaded guilty to over 700 counts, and he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He served his sentence, and he was released in June 2016. In February 2002, several news outlets did a story about the 20th anniversary of the discovery of the bodies. The sheriff said that Ray Marsh had re-entered the community and he was doing well. The sheriff said he had done his time and he was ready to move on with his life. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please don't forget to check out our new channel, Paranormally Listed. There's a link on the screen now, and there's a link in the description box below this video. Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.